Evan never thought his life would change on a quiet evening in the apartment he shared with an alien. He had lived with Lyra for 4 months, and in all that time, she remained a mystery he respected but could never fully understand. She spoke softly, moved quietly, and always kept herself wrapped in long layers of shimmering fabric. Her clothes hid almost every inch of her body, and Evan assumed it was because Earth's atmosphere was harsh for her sensitive, glowing skin. Their routine was simple. They shared meals sometimes, exchanged polite conversation, and kept out of each other's private moments. Evan tried his best to give her space because she had told him on the first day in her calm and gentle voice, "Privacy is important for my kind." She never explained more, and he never asked. But that evening, privacy accidentally shattered. It started when Evan finished cooking dinner. The smell of warm soup filled the apartment, and he walked down the hallway with a bowl in hand. He knocked gently on her door. "Lyra, you want dinners?" No answer. He knocked again, still nothing. Evan frowned. She normally answered with a soft hum or a quiet one moment. The hallway felt too silent, and worry tugged at his chest. Maybe she fainted. Maybe she was sick. He knew her body didn't react well to Earth's humidity. He had seen her get dizzy once from just walking outside in the heat. So, out of concern, nothing else, he opened the door just a little. "Lyra, are you?" The rest of the sentence died in his throat. Lyra stood in the middle of the room, her outer robe folded neatly on the floor beside her. She was halfway through changing, something he never imagined he would see. Her skin glowed softly with silver light, like moonlight reflecting on water. Thin, delicate patterns ran across her shoulders and spine, shifting gently as she breathed. Her body looked fragile yet beautiful in a strange, otherworldly way. Evan froze like a statue. His mind panicked. His face burned. He didn't know where to look, what to say, or how to breathe. He felt like he had walked into something sacred, something he was never meant to witness. Lyra spun around quickly, shock rising in her large silver eyes. A faint pulse of bright light rippled across her skin, a clear sign of her distress. Evan backed away instantly. I'm sorry. I swear I didn't mean to. I thought something happened to you. I'm sorry, Lyra. I didn't mean to see anything. I was just..." He almost tripped trying to step out. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of screaming, hiding, or ordering him out, Lyra lifted her hand slightly. "Stop," she whispered. Evan froze again, confused. Her voice trembled in a way he had never heard before, soft, scared, and full of something deeper. She wasn't glowing with anger. She wasn't even shielding herself. She looked afraid. "Please don't go," she said. The words felt impossible. Lyra never asked him for anything. She always handled her own problems, always kept distance, always smiled politely but never let anyone close. And now she was asking him to stay in one of the most private, vulnerable moments of her life. Evan stepped inside again, but slowly, gently, as if moving too fast would break the air between them. "You're not angry?" he asked quietly. Lyra shook her head. Her fingers curled nervously at her sides. "My molt is incomplete," she murmured. "I cannot remove the last layer myself. I tried, but I cannot finish." Evan blinked, trying to understand. "Your molt." She nodded. "On my planet, when we shed damaged skin, our family helps. We do not do it alone, but here I have no one." Her voice cracked. The meaning hit Evan harder than anything else. She wasn't just changing clothes. She was shedding a biological layer that her species needed to survive. And she was fighting through it alone in a small room on a strange planet, far from her home, far from her people, far from anyone who understood her. Evan looked at her with a soft, worried expression. "What do you need?" he asked carefully. Lyra swallowed hard, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and hope. "I need someone I trust," she said quietly, "and I trust you." The room felt still, heavy, full of fragile honesty. Evan took a slow breath and nodded. "I'm here," he whispered. And for the first time, Lyra smiled, small, weak, but filled with relief. In that single moment, two completely different worlds stepped a little closer. And neither of them would ever forget it. Evan hesitated at the doorway, unsure of how to move forward. Lyra's glowing skin shimmered softly under the light, like liquid silver. The gentle pulses of her body seemed to echo her nervous heartbeat. He had always admired her quiet grace from a distance, but never like this, never so close, never so vulnerable. Her trust felt like a fragile glass, shining, beautiful, but ready to break with a wrong word or gesture. I can help," he said softly, his voice almost a whisper. "Tell me what to do." Lyra's large, silver eyes flickered with surprise. For months she had carried herself with quiet independence, never letting anyone touch her, never asking for assistance. Yet now here she was asking him, of all people, to help her shed the damaged layer of her skin. Her voice trembled slightly. You don't need to. You could leave. Most humans would leave." Evan shook his head. "I'm not leaving, not now, not ever." She studied him for a long moment. Her eyes softened and a faint glow ran across her shoulders. "On Velan, the molt is sacred, it is painful, it is intimate. Only family touches it, but you are not my family, yet I feel safe asking you." The words hit Evan harder than he expected. She had let him into a part of herself that no one else had ever seen. Not even her closest friends on her home planet could witness this. And she trusted him enough to ask for help at a moment of extreme vulnerability. Evan stepped closer, careful not to startle her. "I'll be gentle," he promised. "I'll follow your instructions exactly. I won't hurt you." Lyra nodded, her glow dimming slightly as she closed her eyes and focused. The outer layer, it must be lifted slowly in sections. If pulled too fast, it tears the skin beneath. That would be very dangerous. Evan nodded, kneeling down near her. His hands hovered in the air, uncertain at first. But then he remembered her words, the trust she had placed in him. Slowly, carefully, he placed his fingers under the edge of the shimmering layer. It was delicate, almost translucent, and it pulsed slightly under his touch. "Breathe with me," Lyra instructed. "Slowly, 1, 2, 3. Evan followed her rhythm. As he lifted the first small section, a faint ripple of discomfort passed through her, but she remained still, breathing steadily. "Good," she murmured. You are doing well, better than I expected." He smiled faintly, though his hands remained tense. "I'm learning from you," he said quietly. "Just guide me." As they continued, piece by piece, Lyra began to speak softly about her life on Velan. She spoke of twin moons that lit her childhood nights, of songs her mother hummed during meals, of the colors of forests that never existed on Earth. Her voice was almost musical, soothing even as her body shimmered with effort. "I came here to learn about humans," she said softly, "to understand you, to see if your world could feel like home, but I did not expect to feel so alone." Evan's heart ached. "You are not alone anymore," he said, carefully lifting another section. She glanced at him, silver eyes shining faintly. "Your people, you are different from what I imagined, strong and yet capable of gentleness, of care. I am glad you are here." There was a pause. Evan could feel the weight of her words, the truth behind them. She had trusted him with something so personal, so important, that it had never occurred to him he could be part of her life in this way. The process continued, slower now. Evan moved with increasing confidence, guided by Lyra's careful instructions. Each small success brought a ripple of relief across her body, and for the first time she relaxed even slightly in his presence. She leaned forward a little, letting him handle parts of her she never allowed anyone else to touch. "You are patient," she said softly, "and careful. That is rare. Most would rush, most would make it worse." Evan shook his head. "I don't want to make it worse. I want to help. That's all I want." Lyra's eyes softened. "It feels strange to ask for help, to let someone touch me, to show my weakness, but you make it feel safe. Somehow you make fear seem smaller." Evan paused, brushing a small ripple away from her back. "It's not weakness," he said gently. "Asking for help, it's trust, and you've trusted me." Her skin glowed brighter for a moment, pulsing in harmony with her heartbeat. "Then, thank you," she whispered. Evan smiled softly, feeling warmth spread through his chest. He had not expected that a simple act of helping could create such a bond, such trust. And yet here they were, two beings from different worlds, slowly learning that vulnerability was not shameful. That trust could be stronger than fear. Piece by piece, the old layer continued to loosen under his careful hands. And with each section removed, the distance between them seemed to fade, replaced by something far more powerful. A connection neither had anticipated, but both would never forget. Evan moved carefully behind Lyra, his hands steady but gentle. Each piece of her old layer shimmered as it lifted, delicate like silk but glowing softly from beneath. The air in the room was quiet except for her steady, shallow breaths and the occasional ripple of her glowing skin. For Evan, it felt like walking through a sacred space, like he was holding a secret he was never meant to know, yet had been trusted with anyway. "This next section is the hardest," Lyra whispered. "It is fused near the spine. On Velon, family always helps here. If it tears, it hurts more than you can imagine." Evan's heart tightened. He nodded, swallowing the nervous lump in his throat. "I'll be careful, I promise." She exhaled slowly and leaned slightly forward, giving him access to the fused section. Evan placed his hands carefully under the glowing layer, feeling the tension beneath. It was tight, stubborn, and resistant. The glow dimmed slightly under his fingers, as if she were bracing herself. "Good, slow," she murmured, her voice trembling. "One small pull at a time." He followed her instructions. Slowly, ever so slowly, he lifted a tiny edge, making sure not to hurt her. Lyra's silver eyes closed, and a faint shiver ran through her body. Evan's chest ached. He had never imagined that helping someone could feel so delicate, so vital. "You're doing fine," she said quietly, her voice almost a sigh. "Better than I imagined." Evan nodded, though his hands remained tense. He was aware of the pulse beneath her skin, the way she trusted him with something that was both intimate and essential to her survival. Each small success brought a ripple of relief across her shimmering body. I have never allowed anyone to do this," Lyra admitted softly. "Not even my closest friends on Velon. I was always taught to be independent, to endure alone, but it is easier with someone who cares." Evan paused, his fingers stilling for a moment. "You are not alone," he said quietly, "and you won't be, not while I'm here." Her eyes fluttered open, glimmering with a soft light that reflected both relief and gratitude. "It feels strange, vulnerable, but safe. Somehow you make the fear smaller." They worked in silence for a few minutes, the room filled with nothing but the soft shimmer of her skin and the gentle rhythm of her breathing. Lyra began to speak again, her voice more relaxed now, almost musical. She told him about her childhood on Velon, about the twin moons that bathed her world in silver light, about forests that glowed faintly at night, and about songs her mother sang during long evenings. Evan listened, fascinated. Each story revealed a piece of her world he had never known. Each word made her seem more real, more alive, more human in ways he could feel in his chest. You humans," she said softly, almost in wonder. "You are so strange. You have short lives, and yet you feel deeply. You fight, you care, you risk, and somehow it is beautiful." Evan's hands moved slowly over another section, lifting the glowing layer with care. "I think that's because we learn to trust, even when it's hard," he said, "even when it's scary." Her silver eyes met his, filled with an emotion he could not name. I am learning that now," she admitted. "With you, I feel something I never expected, comfort, safety, and perhaps connection." Evan felt warmth in his chest, a strange, strong feeling he could not explain. Helping her, guiding her through this vulnerable moment, it created a bond between them, a bond that transcended planets, species, and even fear. Piece by piece, the old layer continued to loosen. Evan moved slower now, not out of fear but out of reverence. He had been trusted with something sacred, and he could not ruin it. Every time he felt her pulse under his fingers, he was reminded of the fragility and strength of life, and how rare it was to be allowed so close to someone's soul. Finally, only a small section near the base of her spine remained. Lyra gasped softly, her body trembling. Evan froze. "Are you okay?" he asked, worry heavy in his voice. "It is the last part," she whispered. "It will hurt, but I cannot finish alone. You must help me." Evan swallowed. He could feel her trust, fragile and powerful all at once. "I'm here," he said, his voice firm despite the tension. "I won't let you fall. I'll be gentle." Her eyes glimmered faintly in response. "Thank you, Evan," she whispered, her voice small but steady. You are brave." In that quiet, glowing room, two worlds existed together. Evan's hands held hers, steady and careful, while Lyra allowed herself to be vulnerable, trusting him completely. And in that shared space, in that fragile moment of pain and trust, something extraordinary began. A connection that neither human nor alien could have imagined, yet both would never forget. Evan's hands hovered over the last section of Lyra's old layer near the base of her spine. The soft glow of her skin dimmed slightly, a sign of discomfort he had learned to recognize over the past hours. His heart beat fast, each pulse echoing the tension in the quiet room. He could feel how fragile this moment was. One wrong move could cause her pain, and yet she trusted him completely. This is the hardest part," Lyra whispered, her silver eyes closed, her body trembling slightly. "On Velan, family always helps here. Alone, it is very painful." Evan swallowed. He had never seen anyone so delicate and so brave at the same time. "I'm here," he said softly. "I won't let anything hurt you, I promise." She exhaled slowly and nodded, leaning slightly forward to give him better access. Evan placed his hands carefully, fingers brushing over the glowing surface of her skin. The shimmer pulsed faintly under his touch, as if sensing both the tension and the trust in the room. He took a deep breath and began to lift, one slow, steady motion at a time. A sharp ripple ran through her body. She gasped softly and Evan froze. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice trembling with worry. "It hurts, but it is bearable," she whispered. "Please continue." Her words, small as they were, gave him courage. He adjusted his hold and continued, lifting carefully inch by inch. Every movement required patience. He felt the tension in her body, the resistance of the fused layer, and the vulnerability of her trust all at once. "You're doing well," she murmured, her voice shaking. "Better than I feared." Evan nodded, trying not to think about the sharp pulse of pain she felt. He focused on each slow movement, remembering her instructions. Slow, careful, gentle. And all the while, her eyes, half closed, half glowing, watched him with a mixture of trust, fear, and gratitude. I never expected to ask for help like this," Lyra said softly, her voice trembling. "I always thought I had to endure alone, but it feels different. With you, I feel safe." Evan's heart swelled. He had never realized that trust could feel this heavy, this important. "You're not alone anymore," he said quietly. "I'm right here, Lyra. I won't leave." Her eyes glimmered with faint tears, silver reflections that pulsed like soft stars. "Thank you," she whispered. "No one has ever cared enough to stay through this." He swallowed, feeling a strange warmth spread through his chest. Every small section he lifted, every pulse he sensed, every shiver she gave in response deepened something between them, something neither could explain. It was more than trust. It was connection born from vulnerability and courage. Halfway through, a sharp crack echoed as one stubborn piece shifted. Lyra cried out softly, a sound so fragile it tore at Evan's heart. He instinctively pulled back, his hands shaking. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean." "It's not your fault," she whispered through clenched teeth. "The last part is always painful, but you are helping me survive. That is what matters." Evan exhaled slowly, steadying his trembling hands. He placed them carefully again, following her breathing. "I've got you," he said gently. "I won't let anything happen." Lyra's silver eyes fluttered, her body relaxing fractionally under his careful touch. I am glad you are here," she whispered. "Even if it is hard for you, your patience, it means everything." Evan's hands moved slowly, deliberately, listening to her faint murmurs, her breathing, and the tiny pulses of light from her skin. He guided the last stubborn layer with care, pulling just enough to release it without tearing. Her body trembled under the sensation, but she stayed still, trusting him completely. Finally, with a careful, deliberate motion, the last piece came free. Lyra exhaled deeply, her body shivering once, then relaxing. The soft glow of her new skin spread evenly, calm and steady. She slumped forward, exhausted but alive, trusting Evan enough to let herself fall into his arms. I feel lighter," she whispered, her voice trembling. You helped me through something sacred, something I could not do alone." Evan held her gently, feeling the warmth of her body, the pulse of her glowing skin, and the quiet, extraordinary trust she had placed in him. "You did it," he whispered. "And I'm here, always." Her silver eyes looked up at him, shimmering with gratitude, relief, and something more profound, something he could feel deep in his chest. "You are human," she murmured softly. "But your heart, it is extraordinary." In that quiet room under the soft glow of her reborn skin, Evan realized something extraordinary. Humans could be fragile, yes, but their strength was not in endurance alone. It was in their courage to care, to risk, and to stay even when it was painful. And tonight he had shown Lyra exactly that. Two worlds had collided in a single act of trust and bravery. One human, one alien, and a bond that neither distance nor fear could break. And in that moment, Evan understood something he had never known before. Helping someone truly, completely, could change both of them forever. Evan helped Lyra settle onto her bed, laying a soft blanket over her glowing, newly revealed skin. The shimmer of her body was now calm, gentle, like the soft light of dawn. She looked fragile, exhausted, and yet somehow stronger than he had ever seen her. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of her breathing and the soft pulse of light radiating from her skin. Evan sat beside her, unsure of what to say. Words felt small compared to what had just happened. He had held her through pain, through vulnerability, through a moment she had never shared with anyone. And yet somehow the trust she had placed in him made him feel honored, terrified, and strangely alive. You helped me," Lyra whispered, her silver eyes glimmering faintly. "Not just with the molt, but with something else, something I did not know I needed." Evan smiled softly, brushing a strand of silvery hair from her glowing shoulder. "I'm just glad I was here," he said. "I didn't want to leave you alone when you needed someone." Her eyes softened. "Humans, you always surprise me. You seem fragile sometimes, short-lived. Your lives are fleeting, and yet you show courage that feels eternal." Evan's chest tightened. He had never thought of humans that way, at least not in a way that mattered here in this quiet apartment beside someone who had risked so much to trust him. "It's not about being strong," he said softly. "It's about caring, about staying even when it's hard." Lyra's gaze held his, shimmering with emotion he could barely name. "You stayed, even when it could have been uncomfortable, even when it hurt, even when I asked for something so intimate. That is bravery beyond what I imagined humans could feel." Evan swallowed. "I didn't do it to be brave, I did it because you matter to me." Her breath caught. The faint glow of her skin pulsed faster, a reflection of the emotions she tried to contain. You mean that?" she asked softly. He nodded, a small smile touching his lips. "I mean every word." Lyra's eyes glimmered with something deeper now, gratitude, trust, and a softness that only came from true vulnerability. She reached out hesitantly and took his hand. Her fingers were warm, surprisingly soft, and her grip gentle but firm. Evan felt a surge of emotion at the simple touch. "I have been afraid," she confessed, her voice trembling. "Afraid to let a human touch me, afraid to care, afraid that if I let myself feel I will lose you. But tonight you showed me something I never expected, that I can trust, that I am not alone." Evan squeezed her hand gently. "You won't lose me, not now, not ever." A faint smile curved her lips, fragile and beautiful. "You humans," she whispered, "you are so strange, so brief, and yet so full of everything. Compassion, courage, love, you surprise me." He chuckled softly. "Maybe that's part of being human, maybe that's what makes us us." Her silver eyes glistened, shimmering like liquid starlight. I am glad you walked in," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Even if it was an accident, even if it was awkward, even if it changed everything." Evan's heart ached at her words. "It wasn't an accident for me," he said softly. "It was the moment I realized how much you mean to me, how much I care." She leaned back slightly, still holding his hand. I care too," she whispered. "I didn't expect it, I didn't think I could, but you made it easy, you made it feel safe." They sat in silence for a few minutes, letting the quiet swell between them. The room was filled with something unspoken, yet understood, a connection deeper than words, stronger than fear, and more delicate than the shimmering glow of her skin. "I've never felt like this before," Evan admitted quietly. "I didn't know I could care for someone this way, and I didn't know someone from another world could mean so much." Lyra's gaze softened. You humans, you teach me something new every day, about courage, about trust, about love, and about myself. Evan smiled, squeezing her hand again. Then maybe we're teaching each other, he said. Her lips curved into a faint, genuine smile. It was small, shy, and trembling with emotion, but it reached her eyes. Yes, she whispered softly. Perhaps we are. And in that quiet, intimate moment, two beings from different worlds sat together, holding hands, hearts connected, and realized that trust, care, and courage could bridge any distance, even the distance between planets. Evan looked at her glowing skin, the soft shimmer reflecting her relief and gratitude, and realized something extraordinary. Humans were fragile, yes, but the strength of humanity was not in muscles or endurance. It was in the courage to care, the patience to stay, and the bravery to trust. And tonight he had shown Lyra exactly that. The room was quiet now, filled only with the soft glow of Lyra's new skin and the gentle rhythm of her breathing. Evan sat beside her on the edge of the bed, their hands still intertwined, the warmth of her touch lingering on his palm. There was a feeling between them now, something deeper than friendship or simple companionship, a bond forged in trust, vulnerability, and shared courage. Lyra tilted her head, her silver eyes reflecting the soft light around her. I never thought I could feel this way, she whispered. Not with a human, not with anyone, but you make it possible. Evan smiled softly, his chest tightening with emotion. I didn't expect it either, he admitted. I thought we would just be roommates, simple, quiet lives, each in our own space. But tonight you let me into your world, into something sacred. She studied him, the shimmer of her skin pulsing faintly with her emotions. It was strange, scary, but I never felt unsafe, even when it hurt, even when I was afraid. You stayed. You understood. Evan nodded, squeezing her hand gently. Because you matter to me, Lyra, you always have. A faint glow of warmth spread across her face, her expression softening. I have been afraid to care, to feel, to let someone in. I thought, humans are fleeting, short-lived. If I cared too much, I would lose everything. You won't lose me, Evan said softly, looking into her silver eyes. Not today, not tomorrow, not while I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Her lips curved into a small, hesitant smile. It is strange, she admitted. You humans, you live such short lives, yet you can care so deeply. You show bravery not through strength alone, but through patience, trust, and kindness. And I am beginning to understand why your species is remarkable. Evan chuckled softly, feeling warmth spread through his chest. Maybe that's what makes us human. Maybe our strength isn't in surviving alone. Maybe it's in staying with someone even when it's hard, even when it's painful, even when we're afraid. Lyra's eyes softened, shimmering with a mixture of awe and gratitude. You make fear feel smaller, she whispered, and trust easier. For a long moment they sat together in silence, the bond between them strengthening with every passing heartbeat. Lyra leaned her head slightly against Evan's shoulder, a gesture she had never allowed before. He felt the gentle weight, the warmth of her body, and the pulse of life in her glowing skin. It was intimate without words, a quiet acknowledgement of what they had shared. I want to learn more, Lyra murmured, her voice soft, almost a whisper. About humans, about your world, about feelings, about connection. You will, Evan said gently, and I'll be here to show you every step of the way. Her fingers tightened slightly around his, and she lifted her glowing eyes to meet his. I have been alone for so long, she admitted. On Velen I had family, but here nothing, only isolation, only distance. And yet you have changed that. You gave me something I didn't think I could ever have again. Evan's chest swelled. He had not expected that a single night, a single act of trust could bring them to this point. We changed each other, he said softly. You trusted me, and that allowed me to trust, to care in ways I didn't expect. Her lips curved into a faint, fragile smile. Perhaps that is what it means to connect, to touch another life even across worlds, to share trust even when it is difficult, to care even when it is frightening. Evan nodded. Exactly, and we did it together. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to relax fully in his presence. The fear, the tension, the isolation, all of it melted away under the warmth of shared trust and care. She felt lighter, stronger, yet more vulnerable in a way that felt safe. You make me want to believe, she whispered. In humans, in friendship, in trust, in connection, you have shown me the beauty of being understood by someone else. Evan smiled, brushing his thumb gently across her hand. Then maybe that's what makes humans remarkable, he said. We are fragile, yes, but we are also brave enough to care, brave enough to stay, and brave enough to trust. Lyra leaned back slightly, letting the glow of her skin radiate softly across the room. And I will try to carry that with me, she said, because you showed me how. In that quiet, softly glowing room, two beings from different worlds shared something extraordinary. Not just survival, not just help, not just relief, but a connection born of courage, patience, and the simple act of staying. And in that bond, Lyra realized that humanity was more than short-lived lives and fragile bodies. It was the bravery to care, the courage to trust, and the strength to remain by someone's side, no matter the fear. Evan looked at her glowing face and felt the truth in her words. In this quiet apartment under soft lights, he understood what she meant, and he knew that the bond they had formed would outlast fear, pain, and distance, bridging two worlds in ways neither had expected.